Ooh, live on the interwebs.
It's been the blasts.
Yeah, me too.
See if that works. All right, so let's get this show on the road.
All right.
All right.
This is going to be the two handsome boys interview,
Yeah.
hosted by Narrative.
Cool. So, I mean, first off, thanks for agreeing to do this.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. I want to keep this like really conversational, and I feel like a lot of people already know your background, so I'll just kind of like give the brief update. So you're based in Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
You study sociology at UCLA.
Yep.
Started doing street photography since you were 18.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you started your blog about 5 years ago, correct?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Cool. So I mean, definitely like my key questions focused around like, okay, how did you, like getting started must have been really difficult, especially I read that you used to do like social media, but then laid off and then you kind of transitioned to this.
Yeah.
So I could only imagine that like transitioning from a full-time job into like street photography, especially because it might be difficult to get money. Like my question would be, like, what was that like in the very beginning of transitioning from a full-time job into street photography?
Yeah, so a lot of people often ask me, it's like, I want to be a photographer full-time, but I have a day job, I'm a student, like how do I make it work out? And pretty much my advice is, I think it's good to have a model where, you have a stable day job, but you have your side projects on the side, and then you keep working at it until you could, I guess, make it a full-time living. So in terms of how I got my blog started, it was just totally just like out of pure fun. And I remember when I first started Googling street photography when I was around 18 years old, and I would Google like how to shoot street photography and not to get punched in the face. Because it's scary, you're taking a photo of a stranger and then you're like, click, and then someone might just like punch you in the face. But so there weren't that many resources on the internet at the time. This is probably around, let's say 2006, 2007. And I was just thinking to myself, man, this sucks that there's no resource on street photography. There should be someone out there doing something about it. Oh well. And then the next 3 years, I'm just experimenting, trying to teach myself. And then it just kind of clicked me. Why not I just start a street photography blog and just share my experiences? And I'm not an expert. I'm still a student learning. But I'm sure there's some other people out there who are also curious how to shoot street photography, different tips, different approaches, how to conquer their fears, how to make better compositions. And I studied sociology at UCLA. And my research interest was actually social media and sociology, and the intersection of how people interact with the friends on the internet. I remember when I turned 18, I don't know if you guys experience this too. Like you get like 200 Facebook posts, people like, yeah, happy birthday, Eric, and like one text message like from my mom, and like no one called me. And I'm like, this is weird how the internet's kind of making things a little bit unpersonal as well. But at the same time, I did find social media was a chance to bring me to a part of this larger conversation about photography on the internet. So I started my blog, after I graduated college, I initially thought about becoming a sociology professor because teaching was always my passion, but ended up like, crap, I should probably get like a real job. So ended up getting a job as an online community manager at eHow, part of Demand Media, which is a bigger company. And yeah, learned a lot about social media there, and applying the concepts I learned there when I started my street photography blog was kind of around the same time. So when I started working there full-time, started my blog. And so kind of cross-pollinating all the lessons I learned and said, oh, this worked well on my blog, it might work well at work, and vice versa. And yeah, essentially I just started my street photography blog as like kind of an educational hub, I guess, like some of the tips and lessons I've learned. And after a year the company went public, I was like, yeah, we're gonna be rich. And then like, no, our stock is tanking. So like half the company gets laid off, so I lost my job. But in hindsight, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me because, like for a while I was planning on, I want to make the jump, but, I didn't have that much money saved up, so I had student loans, and I was like really scared. And fortunately, the company made the decision for me. And I was like, okay, worst case scenario, I just like live in my mom's basement or whatever. But yeah, I'd done a few workshops then, and put up a YouTube video saying I just lost my job. This is my passion. I'm gonna try to see if I can make a living doing it. And the first 2 or 3 years were really difficult. Like always stressing about finances. Like, am I gonna be able to pay the rent this month? But fortunately, my parents, my partner Cindy was very supportive, and also the street photography community. And yeah, and I guess I've been teaching street photography workshops, running my blog full time the last maybe 3.5 years so far, and I'm not homeless yet, so
Yeah.
fingers crossed. Yeah, knock on wood. Yeah, it's a nice wood here.
Yeah. So obviously, since you have that background with social media and kind of going into like, obviously anyone that wants to transition from like your typical 9 to 5 into something creative or pursuing their passion, what would you say like was the biggest contributing factor? Like, was it your blog content that just like got viral, or were you doing stuff on the side that really like got your social media going, or like how did you get that? Like, when did you start seeing traction, and what was the biggest contributing factor?
Probably, so anyone who started a blog, I'm sure you guys start blogs, right? It's so hard. I think the hardest thing is just staying motivated to always post, because I think the thing I learned about social media is and blogging and everything, the key is just not dying. Because like I think the statistic is 99.9% of blogs aren't updated after the first month. So even so I've been blogging maybe like, I don't know, 5+ years now, and there's a lot of street photography blogs that I've seen that's kind of come and pass, but then the ones that are still around, they're kind of few. So I think part of it was just like posting very regularly. So even when I had a full-time job, without fail, like every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'd always post articles. So generally the way I had it structured was Monday was kind of like educational, like how-to things. So like 5 tips on how to conquer your fear of shooting street photography. Wednesday was usually an interview or a feature for like an upcoming street photographer. And that was also good because when I featured other photographers, they would also link it to their friends. And I always remember to myself, I always wanted to become a famous photographer, but then no one ever interviewed me. And I'm like, that kind of sucks. But why not try to empower other photographers who are probably in the same shoes as I did? So funny enough, promoting other photographers had actually helped build my profile. And on Fridays, it usually should be something community-oriented. So everyone, okay, so this theme, the theme is black and white street photography. Submit your best photos on Facebook. So I feature the ones that I like the best, like once a week. And guest blog posts helped out a lot. But essentially, I would say probably the quote key to my success is just steady but incremental growth. I mean, there have been days that like certain articles have gone viral, but then it just tapers off really like a lot. But then just kind of that tiny little blip up, then it's just like boom, and then it's kind of blip up, and it's just been steady but sure. And I would say that's probably been the thing that's been the most successful. Just never stop posting.
Yeah, that's a good tip. So always keep posting.
Always keep posting.
Content is king.
Content is king.
So I remember watching or reading your BBC interview about karate chops and cops or something like that.
Old Chinese men.
Yeah. So that was back in 2013. Has anything new, like weird experiences happened since then?
Well, it's funny because I was actually shooting around the neighborhood here. And what you call this area here? Like, it's not really Soma. It's like the south part of Market.
I would say this area is the Tenderloin.
Would you call this area the Tenderloin?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like Tenderloin-ish, whatever, right? And so I think a lot of one of the scariest things in street photography is just like pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. So I mean, I've been shooting street photography for a while now, and I'm actually pretty confident when it comes to shooting approaching strangers. But like this area here, like Tenderloin area, like I'm still like kind of a little bit edgy, and I did shoot a little bit before coming, but then even one small incident, like I'm just walking around with my camera on deck, and a random dude just kind of like twisted at my aperture ring. Like I just walked by, he's like just twisted, right? And I didn't know if he was actually trying to unscrew my lens or something like that, or he's just playing with my filter, or just kind of try to screw with me. So that kind of like it wasn't aggressive or anything. It was just like, hey, and he just kind of like twisted the front of my lens, and I was like, dude, this lens is worth more than like my car. Like I don't want to lose this thing. So I'm like, oh crap. But I think nowadays I'm always trying to push myself to shoot places where it does make me feel a little more uncomfortable. Because I think like art, anything in life, once you kind of become complacent and too comfortable, I think it's kind of a barrier for growth and creativity and stuff. But I mean, generally, 99.9% of the time, people are quite cool with it. So, I'll take a photo and be like, hey, thanks, man.
Yeah.
And then, the key I think is smiling a lot. And it's kind of like approaching somebody at a bar. There's that 3 awkward seconds where you kind of make eye contact. You're like, should I approach that person? Should I not? And if you hesitate too much, you'll never approach that person. But if you just don't think too much, just kind of go for it, introduce yourself. It's kind of like street photography. Once you hesitate, when you see a good scene and you don't take the photo, you're just going to really regret it.
So what is the answer to how do you do street photography without getting punched in the face?
So the answer to getting punched without shooting street photography without getting punched in the face is first of all, look Asian. Just kidding. Done. No, I think it's there's many different ways, and I'll just give you some practical tips. Is one technique that I like to do in shooting street photography. So if you see somebody interesting, and let's say you want a candid, more natural moment, so you just go and you just kind of take the shot without thinking too much. And then sometimes people turn at you and kind of give you like a what the fuck look, right? They're just like, what's this guy doing? And might be aggressive or might be like upset or whatever. And then what I'll do afterwards is then I'll go up to them after I've taken the photo without permission, say, oh, you look so cool. You look interesting. I like your eyes. I like your outfit. Do you mind if I take some photos of you? And so some people will be like, no, screw up. And I'm like, oh, sorry about that. I leave, but I've already taken the candid shot. More often than not, most people actually go, yeah, sure, cool. What do you want me to do? And then so I'll actually have them stand against the wall and pose for me and stuff like that. So you can kind of get best of both worlds. Another strategy too is that if you're just like starting off in street photography and just totally afraid, I think the best way is just starting by asking for permission, because when you ask for permission, you're not gonna be like, hey, I like your look. Do you mind if I take your photo? Like, no, screw you, right? Nobody does that, right? So if you kind of make yourself vulnerable and say, oh, is it okay if I do it? You give your subject the power to say yes or no. And one assignment I often give to my students in my workshops is the 5 yes, 5 no challenge. The concept is you go up to a bunch of strangers, ask to take their photos, and you need 5 people to say yes, and
5 people to say no.
5 people to say no. And so let's say a student does the assignment, get 5 people to say yes, cool. You're still failing. That's like 5 out of 10. So now you have to look for the 5 scariest looking people and intentionally try to get rejected. And apparently, this is like a pretty common technique even when you're in sales. That like you want to get the door shut on you, because I think in street photography and in life, the fear of getting rejected is often worse than the real rejection. Like even approaching strangers at a bar, right? Like no one's gonna be like, oh, like I'm not gonna go out with you. You're so ugly and fat or pimply or whatever. They're gonna be like, no, sorry, maybe next week. So a lot of it is just kind of getting over that fear of getting rejected. So a simpler assignment is just go out shooting street photography, intentionally try to get rejected by 10 people as quickly as possible. And probably the last strategy I would give in terms of not getting punched in the face is just smile. I mean, it's humans, we're kind of like mirrors. The way you treat other people is the way that people treat you back. So like if you're out shooting kind of like creepy and like kind of nervous and you're exuding this sense of nervousness and awkwardness, other people will feel nervous and awkward. But if you're just kind of like walking around like pretending like you're having a good time and smiling, people look at you smile and you smile at them, they'll almost always smile back. So even one thing I try to recommend is, even when you're not out shooting street photography, just try to make it a habit, just do a small chat with strangers. I don't know about you guys, but whenever you go into an elevator, like probably even here, right? Isn't that the most awkward 3 seconds of your life? And everyone's just like, yeah, and then everyone hears some text, or everyone's just like pretending to be on their phones and stuff like that. So I was just in the elevator coming up right now. Saw 2 people. I felt a bit awkward, so I'm just like, wow, it's really hot today, huh? They're like, yeah, it is really hot. One of the ladies comes up, she takes a book out of her bag, and it's a book on Cuba. So we just started talking about Cuba, and I'm like, oh, I have some friends who go there, I get her some tips. And I was actually locked out of this conference room, and I'm like, oh, Miss, do you work here? Can you like beat me in? And she's like, yeah, sure. So she came in and beat me over. So like these kind of encounters gives you the opportunity to connect with other human beings, open up these different avenues. So I think, like kind of pushing yourself outside that comfort zone is something that's really useful to getting over the fear of shooting street photography and not getting punched in the face, essentially.
The key.
Is that something that you really had to work on personally, or are you pretty like adventurous? You don't mind going up to
Yeah.
people?
Well, I think by nature, if you can't tell, I'm a pretty big extrovert. I like people, but when I first started, I mean, I've always been very friendly with people I know and maybe acquaintances, but with strangers, I mean, the initial reaction I think for most human beings, you kind of want to stay away from strangers. Like you don't know what their intentions are. So even when I first started shooting street photography, I remember I'd see a scene that I really wanted to capture, a person, and you're like, should I not? And then you feel your heart start racing. And I'm like the guy who used to be like on the side of the street, and I'm like, okay, where is like KFC or whatever, right? And I'm like on my phone looking at Google Maps for like 10 minutes, and I could have easily just been like, hey, do you know where KFC is? Like, oh yeah, it's like right there. It's like, oh, it is, right? So it's something that certainly I had to build up over time. And I would say, in terms of approaching strangers, feeling really comfortable shooting street photography, for me, it probably took me like a good 5 years. And for me, learning the approach has kind of been a sociology and psychology experiment. And so all the tips and techniques I've learned over 5 years, I'll do a workshop, teach it to a student in like a day. Then within a day, like their confidence is kind of skyrocketed. So yeah, like it's certainly a skill that anyone can learn. And even if you're more introverted, you're more shy, I think that's actually better because there's more room for improvement than if you're already naturally extroverted. Then you can only gain so much in terms of your confidence.
Did you find because obviously you travel around a lot, did you find that in certain cultures people are more friendly or open to you taking their photos as opposed, like you're just saying walking here in the Tembo and it's like a little bit more sketchy.
Yeah.
Did you find like different cultures have like different perceptions of what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, so the classic examples are like India, most places in Southeast Asia, like your problem there is like getting people to get out of your photograph. It's like all the if you ever go to India, like all these kids will like rush you and they're all trying to get your photos and it's good fun. But it's kind of hard to get a photo of a person like even in Southeast Asia, like not doing this, right?
Yeah.
And so so generally, this is the fun thing. I found generally in warmer climates, people are actually a lot friendlier because like I don't know, it's just like nice and warm. People are chill. But at the end of the day, most people are, based on my experiences from traveling, as long as you treat people with respect, being open and not being creepy, most people in the world, I think we're more similar than dissimilar. And so I would say that, yeah, sure, on a very superficial level, some places might look more friendly than not. But I think about 90% of it depends on your own demeanor as a photographer, and only 10% culturally, I think. And also, it depends on like what ethnicity you are and what country you're in. So I'm lucky that I'm Asian, but like almost every single country is like, dude, Asian tourist with a camera, like this guy is harmless. Right?
Seen that before. Yeah.
The ironic thing is actually when I went to Tokyo, I actually had a lot of problems shooting there, as well as Korea, because I look like a local. And so if like, let's say you're a white guy shooting in Tokyo, be like, oh, like, gaijin, like white dude taking photos of us, that's cool, right? But as an Asian, everyone assumed I was Japanese. I'm actually Korean American. So they'll start yelling at me in Japanese, and I'm like I can't speak Japanese. I don't know what to do. And actually, on occasion, not to scare anybody, but I took some photos of some people, and this happened to me twice, where people grabbed me by the wrist and threatened to call the cops on me, yelling at me in Japanese. I'm like, I am not Japanese, And in Korea, I can speak and understand Korean, but I'm a Korean American. But it still feels awkward shooting there because it's almost like I see old guys on the subway. I'm like, he kind of looks like my uncle who might get angry at me for taking his photo, and there's kind of that weird thing. But I think ultimately, yeah, the biggest thing is your own personal demeanor and outlook.
And when you're talking about a good, when you see a good shot,
yeah.
what does that even look like? I mean, what do you look for in like the perfect shot, if there is such a thing?
So that's a great question, Ryan. So I think for me, the perfect shot is when you look at a photograph and it touches you on like an emotional level, where it's not just a photo where it's like, so the cliche and a lot of street photographers starting off, I did it myself, is that like you find a funny poster of like a guy pointing a finger, you just kind of wait for the guy to stand perfectly there. It looks like the finger is pointing him, which is cool, right? And I think humor is a great type of emotion to get out of photography and the street photography, but I think for me nowadays, I'm looking for something a little bit more real, something a little more visceral, something that's really kind of touches me on an emotional level. So whether that's like melancholy, like extreme joy, isolation, something a little bit deeper. And it's obviously hard to find this. So one practical thing I'm looking for when I'm shooting is emotion, and the way I see that manifest in the streets is through hand gestures, and body language, and facial expressions. So having people just kind of like this, or huddled over, or just like interacting with somebody using hand gestures. And actually nowadays, I think the best tool I use to identify what I think might be a good shot is how scared I am to take the photograph. I mean, it's funny because, you know, when you're starting off in street photography, you kind of see fear as like a computer bug that you're trying to debug. And it's like, you know, oh, I want to be a totally rational human being, and, you know, no one's gonna like shoot you or stab you for taking their photograph.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not. So, you know, there's that fear barrier. But now, like, I don't know about you, but sometimes I could walk around all day and not see any interesting photos. But once I see something and my heart starts to bump and I feel like the cold sweats and my breathing starts going up a little bit deeper, that's kind of my mind subconsciously telling my body, hey, Eric, this is an interesting photo. The reason why you are so scared is because you know it's an interesting scene. You're afraid of shooting it because you might upset people or some people might get aggressive, but it's such a good moment. So nowadays, whenever I feel fear, that's when I know I have to take the photograph. So like even shooting around here in the Tenderloin, there have been some shots that I took because for no reason I felt afraid to take it, and I just shot it anyways. And I think it might be decent, the photographs.
I think that's really smart. It's almost like you're taking the photos that everyone else would be too scared to take, and you're being that like pioneer to actually do it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
No, I think that's a good point. Is that, and I think that's what makes street photography so rewarding, but also difficult. Is that, like, you know, anyone could take a nice macro photo of like a flower or like a sunset. Like, you're not gonna take a photo of a flower because they're gonna start yelling at you and threatening all the cops on you. So I think that while that is a challenging thing in street photography, is getting over the fear. That's what makes it so unique, because not everyone has the guts or the confidence to shoot street photography. And when you do kind of get over your personal boundaries of that fear, it's hugely rewarding too. And I'm kind of like, when I was a kid, I used to be like an adrenaline junkie too. Like I used to, like, you know, jump off stairs, and I was really into like aggressive inline skating, which is kind of like the not cool way to skateboard, but like I just couldn't skateboard, so I got rollerblades. I like grind on rails and do backflips and soap up. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I was telling my skater friend this recently, so he was like, so you're a fruit booter. I'm like, don't say that. It's aggressive inline skating. So I've always been kind of an adrenaline junkie. So shooting street photography kind of makes me feel alive when I'm on the streets. And like, I'm sure a lot of people watching, I spend way too much time on the internet, on like Facebook and Instagram, and just like in my house, like just surfing the web. But street photography forced me to go out. And like, even thank you so much for inviting me here, because I was just chilling in Berkeley, not really doing anything. And it's so much more interested being here, shooting, and interacting with you guys too.
So when you go shooting, is it usually because you're on your way to somewhere else, or do you like allot time to go and like find subjects, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I know one common complaint for photographers, whether they have full-time jobs or not, is that I wish I had more time to shoot. And ironically enough, even though I'm a full-time photographer, I probably don't shoot that much more than I did when I had a full-time job. Because, you know, now instead of like having to go to like a 9 to 5, like, you know, I'm still answering emails, writing articles, traveling, doing finances and stuff like that. And so what I try to do is, and you know, I've been trying to balance this, right? Like, should I like say, okay, for 5 hours on Saturday, I'm gonna go out and shoot the entire day, or am I just gonna try to sneak it in between? And what I discovered for me is, I found it better to make photography accommodate my lifestyle rather than making photography my lifestyle, if that makes any sense. So nowadays, yeah, I'm very much, I just always try to carry my camera around my neck as much as possible. So even on the way to Costco, I have my camera around my neck, and I'll take some photos. I have some friends who live in LA, and I'm sure you guys have been to LA. The traffic there is horrible. I have a friend who just has like a point and shoot camera in his in his cup holder and is stuck in traffic, he'll just take photos out of his windows. So I think the really successful photographers are the ones who are able to kind of fit in photography in the small little like 15 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 2 minutes here, rather than saying, okay, I want to quit my job and just only do photography 24 hours a day. And funny enough, I actually think that having constraints in terms of how much time you have to shoot is actually better for your creativity. I had a friend who used to work as a full-time lawyer, and work was really stressful for him. So after he got off work at like 8 at night, from 8 to 10, he'd just be shooting like intensely. Now he's doing more like photography on his own, and he doesn't have the same amount of drive. Because sometimes I think having too much free time is actually bad for creativity. So I think, essentially I'm just trying to, like, I'll walk around the park, take some photos, out with my my partner for dinner, just take some photos of her every dinner, stuck in traffic, shooting out the window. Of course, do this, carefully on the BART. So just trying to always have my camera with me as a third eye or something like that.
And that's a film camera, correct?
Yeah, so there's two main cameras I've been shooting with lately. It's my first camera is the Leica MP, which is a German camera. MP stands for mechanical perfection. It's like very kind of snooty. But yeah, and I'm shooting with a 35 f2 super chrom lens. If anyone's curious, shooting Kodak Portra 400. I've been shooting film for probably the last maybe three and a half years now. And the other digital camera I have just in my pocket is the Ricoh GR. It's a little pocket camera, and I usually just shoot it on P mode, and I use this to shoot mostly portraits because I could shoot in macro mode and literally take photos this close. Whereas with the Leica, the minimum focusing distance is 0.7 meters, which is about 2 feet, which is about this far away. So you can see the difference between a photo I could take from here versus a photo I could take at this distance. You'll kind of create different types of images. So I'll usually just have this around my neck. I might have this in my pocket or something like that when I'm out shooting.
And I think I remember seeing that you prefer film. Something about being able to you don't get that instant gratification that you would with digital. Can you talk more about why you prefer to shoot with film?
I think probably the biggest reason I prefer to shoot film is look like a douchebag hipster. No, I was I'm trying to keep Urban Outfitters alive. No,
Exactly.
The way I got into film was I was in Japan, and there they have one of the biggest in Tokyo, the biggest film communities. And I remember going there, and actually at the time I had the digital Leica, the M9, and all my friends were like, Eric, you gotta try shooting film. Film's the shit. And I'm like, dude, you guys are just a bunch of wanker douchebag hipsters. I could just shoot digital. It's way cheaper, and there's all these film simulation presets. What's the point of shooting film? They're like, no, you just gotta try it out, man. I'm like, okay. And so I remember when I tried shooting film the first time, I took a photo, and championing the instinct is you just want to look at the back of the LCD screen, and I'm like, crap. And I was totally afraid. The first roll of film I shot, I was afraid that it was just all black. And a lot of it was I was dependent on technology, so I didn't even know how to manually expose or anything like that. And after a while, I just became hooked. Ended up selling my Leica M9 and buying this instead. And I think for me, shooting film, I think it's made me a better photographer in a lot of regards. It's made me more patient. I think with digital, the problem I have is I love instant gratification. I'm like anybody. If Google Maps takes more than 2 seconds slow, I'm like, God damn internet, why is it so slow? And I think especially in today's world of Instagram, it's so much about that instant gratification. It's almost like having that nicotine hit or that. It's more like crack actually. It's I've never done crack, but I heard it's pretty addictive. But shooting film, it forces me to be more patient. The last time I got a bunch of film developed, I got about 164 rolls of film developed in one go after a year of shooting, and it was so fun. It was like a kid waiting for his Christmas presents on Christmas Day, right? And so I bring in all this film, wait to get it back, and then I get back all the film, and all these photos I took a year ago that I totally forgot about, I was able to relive my memories twice. Whereas with digital, I'll shoot it, I'll rush home, download to Lightroom and try to upload to Flickr and get lots of likes, and then I'll never look at the photos again. So I think having that sense of distance is good. Also aesthetically, I think film just looks better.
Yeah.
a lot of people can't tell the difference, but I could, and I think that's important. And also, there's something called GAS, which is gear acquisition syndrome. It's like, every 6 months there's like a new camera coming out. And it's kind of like having an iPhone, right? Like you had the iPhone 5S, the newest and greatest, but I mean, this thing, I mean, in theory, I could give this to my grandchild. Like, it's the only camera that's not going to get outdated because it's already outdated. And I'm also pretty into cars, so I guess like the analogy is like, I'd rather have like a 1970s Mustang versus like the newest BMW M3, because next year the new M3 comes out, your M3 is going to look like a piece of crap, but the one in the 70s is always going to be a classic. So I think those are probably the biggest reasons I like to shoot film.
The hipster's coming out, Eric.
Oh yeah. No, I just need to put on my beanie,
Yeah.
grow out my mutton chop. Like, I'm Asian, I can't grow facial hair, but it's also a good conversation starter. Always go to a cafe, the baristas are like pretending to be all like snooty, and they're like, "Is that film?" I'm like, "Yeah."
You like that film?
Yeah,
so-
so it's fun. Like that.
No, I think that's really interesting what you just said, especially because obviously here at Narrative, we create a camera that basically you don't have that instant gratification, like you can't see those photos.
Yeah.
And especially what you mentioned about reliving your moments, like where, yeah, it's totally true. And digital, you shoot, you can like, yeah, you remember it and you don't really see it again. Whereas that, I love the story about, going, I can only imagine going with 160 canisters of film, and they're like, yes, business,
Yeah.
and then being able to get the back and like, whoa, yeah, I remember exactly what I was doing, and like that, it's just so cool. And I think
Well, I mean, so for those people watching about Narrative, so I just watch your just promo reel, and it does seem like really cool. Like, a lot of people have watched my GoPro street photography videos where I literally put a GoPro on the top of my camera, so you're kind of getting a first-person view, and I very much do like the idea of having like a device where it could kind of help me capture those special moments. And the reason I actually started photography was I have a horrible memory. And actually, I think this stems from a fear of forgetting things. So I think, even a product like Narrative or Google Glasses or whatever you have out there could give you a chance to capture those beautiful moments and also kind of relive them. And I kind of do like the idea that, there's no LCD screen. So after experiencing, you don't kind of look at it. And I guess you could just kind of forget about it. You interact with it. Maybe even a year from now, you go back. It's like, oh, like what did we do on my birthday party when I turned 27? And you're like, oh crap, I remember that. So I think a lot of people are sometimes afraid of like security and all those concerns. But I think for me, memories are really important. So I think anything that could help this process is good, I think.
Yeah, and a camera like that, it seems like you have to really get up in someone's face, right?
Yeah, well, so like just street photography tips. So generally, a lot of people ask like, what kind of lens do I recommend for street photography? I think full frame equivalent. I recommend around a 35mm full frame equivalent. And generally, if you want to make a good photo with a 35mm lens, you want to shoot it at, in my opinion, about 1.2 meters, which is 4 feet or closer. So a good rule of thumb is just around 2 arm lengths away. So if you stick out your arm. So around this distance, I mean, like, it doesn't seem that far when we're just standing next to each other. But if you're photographing a stranger, it is actually a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
But I actually find my best photos, not always true, but the closer you are, the better your photos. There's a famous Robert Capa quote is that if your photos aren't good enough, you're not close enough. And I think one problem that a lot of street photographers have is that they'll shoot the photo from like 2 blocks away or use these huge tele lenses. And there's also another quote that I like is, creepiness is proportional to focal length. So the longer your lens is, the creepier you're gonna look. And so having a small lens, getting close to the action. Sometimes when I'm shooting really close, like even this close, people are like, wow, this guy's so close. They automatically assume I'm taking a photo of something behind them. So that's actually a good tip is that, ironically enough, shooting closer is actually a little bit less intimidating than like hiding behind a bush with a Canon 5DS, whatever, and a 700mm lens,
Yeah. That's a great point.
Yeah.
And I think too, you probably capture some really authentic
Yeah.
things when you're that close, because their feelings really come out in those images.
Yeah.
Ooh, this guy's really close to me right now,
Yeah.
and you really really is from the capture.
Yeah, no, I mean, one rule of thumb I have is that you're close enough if you could see the color of someone's eyes. And I think that is important too, is that not always, but I think often with physical proximity also comes emotional proximity. Is that if you're at a party with your friends, right? Like you can't be like standing halfway across the bar and feel that sort of intimacy and that fun that everyone's having. You want to be in there. You want to be part of the scene. You want to hear the laughter. You want to feel that connection. And this is another reason why I think it's good to shoot with a wide angle lens and shooting really close with a 35 or some people even a 28 mm lens, because the perspective it gives the viewer is that it makes them feel like they're really there and that they're experiencing, rather than a lens that zooms in. It tends to flatten the perspective, and it much more feels like you're an outsider looking in rather than you're an active participant, part of the scene, part of the happening. So totally are right, is that being close and being part of the action. As a photographer, it feels more personal, and also as a viewer, it also feels more personal.
Do you guys have any more photography related questions?
I'm a little bit curious about your first subject.
That's okay.
Okay, so the story behind my first subject. So I'm how old am I? I'm 17 years old. No, I'm 18, maybe 19. I think I'm 18. At the time, I had a Canon Rebel XT with a 50 mm lens, and there was a guy just chilling here on the side, just reading a book, and he had some interesting glasses. And it just seemed like a nice moment. He's just reading a book, and I'm like, oh, he's reading a book. It's a nice day. I'm shooting black and white, be like classic street photo opportunity. And so I just wanted to take the photo. But I was just so like nervous. I'm like, this is awkward. Like do people this is totally. Is it okay if I say that non-PC joke?
Yeah.
Okay, it's kind of like if you're a guy and you're like masturbating for the first time. You think you're the only one to have ever done it. And you're like, oh my god, like this is horrible. I shouldn't be doing this, and like I'm gonna go to hell, whatever. I think street photography is kind of the same thing. Is that like, I think a lot of people who first get a camera, they have this inclination. I want to take a photo of that stranger, but that's like kind of dirty. Like, should I ask? But oh no, if I ask, it's gonna ruin the moment. So all these things are going through my mind, and so I'm just like, okay, I'll just kind of go for it. So I'm just kind of sneakily but awkwardly trying to bring up my camera and take the photograph. And when I'm about to take the photo, he turns around and makes eye contact with me, and I just like my heart stops beating. And I just take the photo anyways. I think what I did was I got on the fortunately like 10 seconds later, the bus comes. I jump on the bus, like I have like hiding my head, and like I just felt so awkward and embarrassed by it. And then I'm looking at the LCD screen, and I got the photo of him making eye contact.
Oh, wow.
And for some reason, that photo made it feel so much more intimate and like more intense. And that's another tip in street photography. Often getting eye contact could make a better street photo, because there's a saying like eyes are the windows of the soul. And having a photo where the subject is looking directly at the photographer, looking as a viewer, it looks like the subject's also looking directly at you. So it does feel very uncomfortable. That's oftentimes why, when you go to galleries, most paintings of people, they're looking straight at you, and it does feel a little bit more intimate. And but yeah, that's probably my, like, I'm just thinking about it now, like kind of getting like palpitations just thinking about it. Yeah.
I'm nervous.
Yeah.
So when we frame up this video, it'll be like Eric Kim relates street photography to masturbating for the first
See,
time.
I think this would be a great article. Like we'll put it on like Pentapixel or something like that.
Yeah.
I'll do an article. It's like 5 things masturbation has taught me about street photography. This would totally go viral. Put on BuzzFeed and just call it a day.
Yeah. Any more photography related questions? Yeah. So I kind of want to like go into like just kind of general questions about your life.
Yeah.
Obviously, you do a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about some of your trips. Like, what are some of the most memorable trips that you had, or any kind of like weird stories from like one of your trips?
Yeah, so I think the most memorable story that I have is something that touches me a lot. Is when I first started my blog, and the first workshop I ever taught. So precursor to this, I wrote an article. It's like 100 things I've learned about street photography. Goes viral on the internet, on Twitter, and stuff like that. I get an email from a woman named Lorraine, and she was a program director for some sort of photography program in Beirut, Lebanon. And she's like, we really like your stuff. Would you be interested in coming over and teaching a workshop on street photography? And to me, this was like the most exciting thing that's ever happened in my life. And actually, at the time, I had my full-time job, and I really wanted to do it, but still like really in debt. Just graduated college, didn't have any money, and I talked to Cindy about it. She goes, "Why not try to like do like a fundraiser?" And this was like kind of before Kickstarter, so I just put out like a PayPal button and just asked for donation on the blog, saying, "Hey guys, I just got invited to do this workshop. I would really love it if you guys could help me support my dreams." And didn't think anything of it. And I go to sleep, wake up in the morning, there's all this money in my PayPal. I'm like, whoa, strangers who don't know me from like the internet, whatever that is, donated money to help me achieve my dream life. And I was just so grateful. And like literally a day or two later, this guy named Thomas Loitard, he said, how much do you need to do your trip? I'm like, maybe like $600-800. We have a one-on-one Skype call. Then he transfers me like $800 or whatever it was. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know you. Like, why? Like, how do you even trust me? Like, what if I just like ran off with the money? And it's really those first acts of kindness that people given me when I started off. And I've been trying my best nowadays to give back as much as I can. Like, I'll offer one workshop I did in Detroit. A place that's not doing so well socioeconomically. Me and my friend Brian Day, we did a Pay What You Can workshop and donated all the proceeds to charity, to the Detroit Firefighters Fund. It's also one of the highest rates of arson in the world. And also one thing I've been doing more is like volunteering more of my time, giving free talks at photography schools. All the content on my blog is available for free. It's all open source, so if people want to download it. And I really want to make everything accessible and open to everybody. So I don't know, you could be like a poor kid in like Calcutta, and you could access everything you need to know about street photography and have like a top-notch, I guess, education. Also, I'm trying to offer more scholarship positions in my workshops to just kind of give back. And so anyways, I go to Beirut, Lebanon, end up doing my first workshop there with my buddy Thomas. And it was just such an amazing experience. And I've never been to Beirut, Lebanon ever before. The only place I traveled outside America was Korea, and it's like very sheltered and stuff like that. But I go to Beirut, Lebanon, and before I go, my friends were, oh, you're gonna get bombed, you're gonna get terrorized, people are gonna, whatever. I go there, and everyone has an iPhone. You go to the malls, like there's all American movies, and people are just so open and so generous. And my host, his name was Mohammed. His mom, this old Lebanese woman, she's like, ask Eric if he has a wife. I'm like, oh, okay. No, I don't. He's like, does he have a girlfriend? Yeah. I said, dump that girlfriend right away. Come to Beirut. We'll find you a beautiful Lebanese wife and like call it a day. And I'm like, that sounds awesome. I mean, I love the food here and everything. I do have my girlfriend back home, so I can't do that. But just like this openness and this generosity, and I found Lebanese people to be some of the most beautiful, open, welcoming people. And the more I've traveled, it's kind of given me the opportunity to meet amazing people. And I think traveling is less about seeing pretty sights, and I like good food too. But it's really been, I've been blessed to meet so many wonderful people that have been very open and generous. And whenever I travel, I usually just crash on the couches of my friends. So it's nice is I feel that I have friends from all around the world. But probably the thing that I've actually learned most about traveling in the last 4 years is home is where the heart is. And I used to dream about traveling the world, and I've actually found that, not to say if traveling is overrated, but once you do enough traveling, I think you realize everything you need is really at home, and you start to value friends, your local community more. And so I think over the next few years, I'll probably do less traveling and spending more time at home trying to build up local photography-oriented events, exhibitions, meetups, and stuff like that.
That's great. So I guess the next 5-10 years, what does that look like? Are you planning like establishing that all here locally in like the Bay Area, or are you?
Yeah, well, so my girlfriend Cindy, she's studying her PhD at Berkeley right now, and I mean, PhD programs obviously take a long time, so she's in it for like another 5 years. So next half decade, 5 years, I'll probably be around here. Actually, it's pretty exciting. Next year, we're actually going to live in Vietnam for a year because she's doing research there. So I'll be a year there, which is pretty exciting. But actually, the time that I spent here, I've been doing more group street photography shows. There's this cafe called Artiste Coffee in Berkeley. It's on 4th Street, and we've been doing some group street photography shows that I've been helping curate, trying to do more local workshops here in the city or meetups, bringing people together. But yeah, essentially what I want to do more is I want to maybe write more photography books, and also having it open, free to anyone who wants to listen. Maybe doing more lectures on street photography and recording those to YouTube. Want to do more collaborations with other cool guys like you guys here at Narrative, which is awesome. Yeah, like Eric Kim meets Narrative, the Narrative clip shooting street photography and the Tenderloin or whatever. That might be cool. But yeah, essentially trying to focus, I guess, more on community and putting myself out there, and also, yeah, just not going broke. I mean, that's
always a goal.
That's always the biggest goal, is just not become homeless.
Yeah.
That's not nice.
So we're coming kind of up on time, so I wanted to move it on to some fun questions.
Yeah, fun questions are always fun. I like fun questions.
So growing up,
Yeah.
what did you want to be?
What did I want to be when I grew up? That's actually a nice question. I actually wanted to be a scientist, believe it or not. When I was a kid, I was actually really into Legos.
Yeah.
And I remember just being so fascinated I could just fall into hours into doing this. And also I remember like in my school, like I would do science experiments. I just love doing things that are really hands-on, experimenting. And even like, do you remember Lego Technics?
Yeah, the little like tubes.
Yeah, the little tubes where it's like, it actually had gears,
Yeah.
and like, you could create like a shovel that would just like do it, and just like twist little rubber bands. And so I was always really hands-on. And even the first computer I got, I think I was like 11, took it apart, put it back together, kind of didn't work, had to get it fixed. But, I always like to do things really hands-on. So, my parents actually thought I was going to even become an engineer. And I was always good at math as a kid because I'm Asian,
Gotta throw in the Asian jokes.
Gotta throw in the Asian
Somewhere.
jokes. But then around high school, for some reason, I just got really bad at math and science. Like, it was like the opposite thing. I was like an Asian who really wasn't good at math. And I'm like, what's wrong with me, right? But I was always drawn to writing, to reading, more of the humanities. And so, yeah, as a kid, I imagined myself being a scientist or, maybe an engineer or something like that. But as I got older and I started realizing more of my passion was, like I did a lot of community outreach when I was a kid, when I was in high school too. And, I'm actually a Boy Scout, Eagle Scout. Yeah. So very, very active with the community. And also, as I started getting older, teaching was really my passion because I knew that I loved being around other people and sharing information I learned and also bringing people together. My parents, typical Asian parents, like, no, don't be a teacher or don't study sociology. You're just gonna become homeless. Actually, yeah, like no. When I actually got to UCLA, I put my major as biology because I was gonna be a doctor, right, and make a lot of money and be successful and be proud. And after a quarter of that, like there's just all these like other hyper fierce people just biting each other's heads off. I remember my first bio class was like 400 kid lecture hall. It's all pre-meds. And I missed class one day, and there's this one girl who was sitting next to me, like friendly looking, unintimidating Asian girl, right? Like, and I'm like, oh, I missed class. Can I see some of your notes? She just goes, no, you're gonna screw up the curve and I'm gonna get F in this class, and turns around and I'm like, I need to get the hell out of biology, right? And so I go to UCLA's class list, and I'm like, what is the exact opposite of biology, which requires the least amount of math and science? And I'm like, oh, sociology. Oh, I like society. I'll do that. And I found it to be actually the best thing ever. Yeah.
I like society. That's a good one.
I like people.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite sounds?
Favorite sounds?
Yeah.
Like what do you mean by that?
My favorite sounds, like the sound of like the cable car going by, or
I like the sound of like touching your beard and feeling how scratchy it is with my finger. No, my favorite sounds. That's actually a good one. When I shoot street photography, I know some people who like to listen to music, but for me, I actually don't, because I feel like it makes me a little more disconnected from the environment. And so yeah, like when I'm out shooting, I love hearing overhearing some conversations. Yeah, like I don't know, like cars, cable cars. Like I need a little bit of background noise to be creative. Like my favorite place to get work done and writing and reading, whatever, is cafes. I love being in cafes. I love the sound of the coffee grinder, the smell of the coffee. I need a little bit of chatter to kind of make me create. Like, I just cannot do work at home when it's pitch quiet at home. And in terms of music, the two things I actually like to listen to the most are Beethoven and Kanye West.
Complete opposites.
Yeah, I'll either listen to classical or some like really trashy hip hop. So yeah, those are probably my two biggest inspirations.
What is your favorite memory if you can only pick one from the past?
Is there a certain time frame?
No, just
My favorite memory.
I guess probably sooner in life than later.
Sooner in life than later. Probably one of the happiest moments that I had. Oh, I'm like, is it okay if I get like super lovey-dovey and sentimental?
Yeah.
Was actually the first time I told my partner Cindy that I loved her, and she told me that she loved me too. And I was so nervous. We're in Paris as students, and there's that awkward build up to it, and then and I was able to finally have the guts to say it, and she told me she loved me back, and that was probably one of the sweetest moments. But ironically enough, actually, the second most vivid personal memory that was actually I felt really euphoric as well was actually the day when I lost my job. Because part of me, like, I was scared shitless because I'm like, crap, how am I going to pay for my student loans and pay for rent? But also part of me was like, my dream was always to become a full-time photographer or work for myself. So this kind of gave me an excuse to really pursue my dreams. So that was actually probably the second most exciting part of my life. Yeah.
Did you plan like telling your partner, like, or it was just super spontaneous? In the moment.
It was like when it happened. I called Cindy, I called my mom, and they're both just incredibly supportive. They're just like, whatever you want to do, we'll support you 100%. And I think Cindy was like, okay, I really want you to pursue your passion. Have a backup plan, because she's the rational, pragmatic one. So I'm like, okay, my backup plan is live with my mom. Right? So yeah. And I can get my mom's awesome Korean cooking and stuff like that. So yeah, that was pretty much how it happened.
Did you get into trouble while you were young at all?
Yeah, actually a lot. I think most people, they just look at me as like, pretty clean, straight edge Asian dude, whatever. But yeah, actually growing up, it was actually pretty tough. I kind of went to pretty good schools, I think, growing up, but I even remember when I was a kid, and I grew up, I went to middle school in Alameda, and I remember when I was like, how old was I, like 12? A lot of my friends were like selling drugs, joining gangs, I remember I had my first beer when I was like 12. Jeez. I didn't really like it at all, but and then some other friends would drink. They're like, "This is awesome." I'm like, "That tastes like piss. I don't like that." And so a lot of my friends would try to convince me to join gangs or do drugs or sell drugs and all this shit. And 12. I remember one of my friends, he dropped E when we were in 7th grade.
Jeez.
8th grade maybe, I don't know. And so I had a lot of kind of these negative influences, but I think. Fortunately enough, I was able to have a very good supportive network of, community organizers, people at my church, people in Boy Scouts, to kind of give me a good sense of right or wrong. So a lot of these kids, who were kind of up to no good, they were kind of like my best friends, but for some reason or not, I just kind of didn't go down that path and ended up going to UCLA and studying really hard and focusing on academics. So I would say, I did definitely face a lot of those kind of challenges and things. But mom set up a good sense of right and wrong, and fortunately things were able to turn out okay.
I remember when I was growing up, my thing was I used to take those little metal hubcaps off of the car tires.
Oh yeah.
I'd always go around with my friend, and I was at one point I took one off a really nice car, and then the tires started leaking it, and then the guy was like, "Hey, you damn kids," and I was like, okay, and that's when it stopped.
Did you ever steal the Honda logos off of
I did
cars?
do the little emblem.
Yeah, I had some friends, they would steal those, and then they would turn them into necklaces and they'll wear them around school or like put them on their backpacks. And I'm like, that's not even like cool, man. But then every once in a while, like someone will steal like a gold Honda emblem. It's like, actually, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, you gotta go for like the Mercedes Benz, not like,
yeah,
you know, like a
yeah.
Honda Civic.
Yeah, but you know, everyone wanted, you know, like we're Asian, everyone wanted a Honda Civic with a big like rice rocket muffler and stuff like that. And that was hot shit.
Yeah, cool. So do you have any questions?
Nope. Well, I was just gonna ask, when is your next workshop?
Oh, exciting news! I'm actually doing a one-day street portrait workshop here in the city. Let's see, when am I doing it? It's gonna be a week and a half from now. It's May 9th. I'm doing a one-day street portrait workshop here in SF. And yeah, then I have workshops coming up in Seattle, Vancouver, Paris, Prague, Berlin, Stockholm, New Orleans, Istanbul this summer. So if people just Google like Eric Kim workshops, I think my full schedule is there.
Cool. And if someone wanted to get in contact with you, like what would be the best way to like ask more questions or?
Best way is probably the Twitters at Eric Kim Photo, or a lot of people. I've actually been pretty active on Instagram lately too. The same thing at Eric Kim Photo. Those are probably the best places to contact me.
And then the last question is,
Yeah.
if someone wanted to get into street photography, what would be the one tip you would give them?
Right. So the one tip, if you wanted to get into street photography, is buy the most expensive camera you can. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's totally not it. I mean, honestly, if anyone wanted to just get into street photography, I would just say grab your smartphone, your iPhone, whatever you have, and just go out and just start shooting. Because I think the great thing about street photography is that it's the most democratic form of photography. You don't need fancy cameras, fancy lenses, or anything like that. I would say just go out and just shoot anything that you find interesting on the streets. And in terms of tips, I would say just, I think most street photographers fail because they're not close enough. So I would say if you really wanted to get really head deep into street photography, I'll give you the 1 arm length challenge. That when you're shooting street photography for a month straight, all your photos have to be shot within an arm's length. And it can be candid, with permission, without permission, doesn't really matter, but focusing on getting close to people and intimate, and also just try to get rid of clutter. Often most street photos fail because there's distracting backgrounds. So just trying to find nice clean backgrounds, getting close, those are probably the 2 biggest tips.
Cool. So if you're in the area, San Francisco, May 9th.
May 9th.
Next workshop, so sign up now.
Sign up now. And also make sure to check out Narrative and the Narrative clip, which hopefully we'll play around with more. Oh, you also have it right here too.
Yeah. Actually, this one's yours.
Oh,
so you can play around with it. So.
Nice. Okay, cool. So I'll see what I can do. Maybe I can get some like cool like street photography point of views or
like behind the scenes.
Yeah, nice. Or like what I'm looking at when I'm on the toilet or something.
Which, I gotta warn you, whenever you walk in the bathroom, you gotta cover it up.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Or you're masturbating.
Yeah. Alright, we'll end it on that note.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Good.